here. Go ahead, Jared. Good evening, everybody. We've got the feet up, and we've got tonight's meeting is the regular meeting of the Mahomet-Seymour Board of Education. And we've got several of our members remote tonight. We've got 3 of us here in the room, but everyone is present. And it is 7 p.m. on Monday, December 14th. At this time, I'd like to remind anyone attending in person, and we do have a very small crowd here tonight due to restrictions. But if you are here in person and you're a guest, we encourage you to sign in and please silence your cell phones. I'd also like to remind our visitors that in order to facilitate an effective meeting, we ask those that wish to make comments to the board to read the visitors' guidelines found outside and complete the public participation form and to get those to Dawn. Can we have roll call, please?
Giles.
Here.
Keith.
Here.
Hendricks.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Larson.
Present. Here.
Hennessy.
Here.
McComb.
Here, and let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Board members, you've had an opportunity to review the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Larson.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Larson.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Giles.
Yes.
Hennessy.
Yes.
Keith.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Public participation, I've got one form. I do know we have a union speaker tonight, I believe, from the MSCA that will be on WebEx. And is there anyone else that we are aware of now?
Not that I'm aware
Do we have any emails submitted for tonight? Okay.
No, actually, no.
Okay. Board members, you've had a chance to look at the consent agenda. On tonight's consent agenda, there are minutes of previous meetings. There are bills to pay. There's the treasurer's report. There's some personnel changes. And there are minutes from previous closed sessions. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
That's Giles. Is there a second?
Second, Larson.
Is there discussion on the consent agenda? Vote please, Don.
Hennessy.
No.
Schultz.
No.
Keith.
Yes.
Giles.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Donations, Dr. Hall.
We have an incredible, generous amount of donations this month. Just so grateful for our community and the way that we're supported. From the Mahomet Lions Club, a donation to Mom's Pantry, $1,000 in cash. A donation from Tom Appenziller, who's a retired science teacher from Mahomet-Seymour Junior High, another $1,000 cash donation to Mom's Pantry. Patrick and Melissa Trainer, a $500 cash donation to Lincoln Trail for the 5G Packs of Joy. And Ken and Patricia Marks Miller, another $500 cash donation for Mom's Pantry. So these are all ways that we find to support our community and our families who are in need. And so a total of $3,000 this month, and just very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got donations of totaling $3,000 to support some of our ongoing work that we're doing, and some good causes. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
I'll second, Hennessy.
Okay, Hennessy second. Discussion on donations? Need a vote, please, Tom.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Giles.
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. All right, it's communication time. Is there anyone from the PTO? MSCA, I believe one of our co-presidents is with us. Meg Jones, are you somewhere?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
And we can see you.
Oh, perfect. Good evening. The MSEA's position on 2 points remains the same. First, we should clearly be following the recommendation of the public health experts at the CUPHD by conducting instruction in a fully remote fashion right now through January 5th. The district's failure to follow this recommendation is why MSEA has filed a grievance on this count. Second, when we return in January, we should continue the hybrid model, one that allows us and our students to adequately social distance as much as possible. MSEA continues to maintain that we have the right to bargain the board's decision to return to a full in-person instruction model in January. Given that the County Health Board does not consider the district's plan for January to be safe, we can't, in good conscience, accept it, not on behalf of students or our members. MSEA would ask for the board to call for a vote tonight to remain hybrid when we return in January. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you, Meg. Is there anybody from the...
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Meg, I'm sorry, can you just clarify for me the grievance part of it, the point one that you made?
Yeah, the grievance was filed in regards to the public health experts recommending the district go to fully remote now through, well, when it was issued through January 5th. So that's what the grievance is in regards to.
The CU public health experts, right, Meg? That's what
Correct.
you're talking about. Okay. Thank you. Megan, sorry, I just wanted to ask that part too.
Okay, is there anyone from the foundation tonight?
Yes, I reported for the foundation at the last meeting, which was telling you that the annual campaign letter was coming out because it was the end of the year and they didn't have a Bulldog Bash lined up, and I am happy to report that they have received over $11,000 in donations to the Mahomet-Seymour Education Foundation. So thank you to the generous donors who have done that. That will be used to go right back into our classrooms and on behalf of the benefits of our students and our staff.
Okay, it's good news, and we appreciate all the work and all the things the foundation does to support us. Visitors, I've got one that has asked to speak, and that's Amanda McFarland.
Is this okay?
That's fine,
Hello.
you've got up to 5 minutes if you need.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I stand before you tonight as a very proud educator in our Mahomet-Seymour School District. And I have to confess, I was very hesitant to come here this evening because I just love my job so much and I love what I do. I love my students. I love working with you, Dr. Hall specifically, Dr. Rummel. And I don't want you to think there's any lack of respect on this end, but I just wanted to voice some concerns I have this evening. I am just so proud of the work my coworkers and I have done in this district since March. I am so proud of our district initiatives put in place to keep our students safe at school, including the new rollout of the COVID testing that started today. Thank you, Nita, for helping with that as well. And since August, there have only been 2 positive COVID cases that have come from school exposure. But I have to confess, I'm getting very nervous about recent health developments that I see on our COVID dashboard that's updated daily. I have noticed on our dashboard, as you all have as well, that positive COVID numbers have been greatly increasing since the start of November. 50 positive cases in November, 12 already this month, and this should give us all a bit of cause to pause and reflect upon what might be best for our schools in January when we return from winter break. The number of students at the junior high choosing to go remote is also on the rise, as most of you probably know. Since November 1st, 62 students in my school have chosen to go all remote. And of course, I don't know the reasons each family made the decision, but I think it's an indication that some families in our district might be worried about the 4-day-a-week, all students back model that is currently proposed for January. If you were to tell me in August that we would be here where we are today, I have to say I wouldn't have believed it. I was afraid COVID would run rampant, even with this hybrid model, and we'd be back to fully remote by September. However, we have worked so hard in our buildings, keeping things safe, keeping them clean, keeping students distance, and we, the teachers, have come together to create and adapt awesome lessons to reach all of our students, hybrid and remote. As a librarian, I've been able to keep books going out to remote students. I've been able to visit classrooms while other activities are needed to keep going in the library. And I'm still in communication constantly with students via email and social media, and I'm, quote, just the librarian. If you think and extrapolate this times 100, think about what my traditional teaching colleagues are doing. We are absolutely rocking this current model. We are keeping people safe. We are keeping them educated. Because of all the hard work and adapting we've done, I implore you to please keep this hybrid learning in place when we come back. I am begging you, and I don't typically do that, especially to some people here that I respect so much. I know you want to keep our students safe. I know you want Mahomet-Seymour School District to be upheld as a beacon of excellence during this pandemic, and so far we have been, in my opinion. So why would we want to exchange the hybrid model we're in for a far riskier one for everyone back 4 days a week, except for those students who remain remote? I have witnessed my two administrators, Mr. Mills and Mr. Fisher, working tirelessly, trying to figure out where to put students, trying to figure out how to keep them safe when we come back in January, rearranging rooms, tweaking and finding new places to eat lunch. I just see them bending over backwards and I applaud them, but I don't think they should have to be doing all of this extra work. If we could just keep this hybrid model, it would keep us safe, it would keep us functioning at the high rate we are functioning at right now. The simple fact is we will not be able to remain effectively distanced in the junior high once we come back in January, no matter how much work we put into swapping classrooms, using other spaces. The numbers are already creeping up. I worry very much what will happen in January after families travel and congregate together, even when they are advised not to. Tonight, I just ask you to please listen to the majority of your employees who have been working so hard to keep everyone safe. Please listen to us and keep our hybrid model safe and standing. Please listen to Julie Pride and the recommendations from CPHD. Please let this hybrid model stand. And please consider making a safe decision for everyone working in our schools day after day and all of our students. It is okay to reverse this decision to be all in when we come back in January. No one will think less of you, and I really think a lot of people would applaud you and thank you, just as I'm going to do right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
For those comments. Board members, let's start with Jeremy. Sorry, Jeremy, we had you muted for a minute. Now you're unmuted. Or no, now you're not unmuted yet. Move on?
Move on and I'll.
Okay, let's go to Kate. Let's go. All right, Jeremy.
All that for nothing. I don't have anything to report.
Well, that's why we work so hard to do that. Mute him again, please, just
I'm not
kidding.
muting him again.
Ken?
I have no report tonight either.
Okay. Colleen?
I would just like to say, if you're looking for something to do for some holiday enjoyment, you might want to check out the Madrigals, who have a free show this year that you can watch online and do a great job. Thanks.
Thank you. Megan?
I just want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday and vacation time, and I hope that everyone gets some much deserved rest and is able to safely connect with those that they love and have a happy holiday season.
Thank you. Lori?
I would echo what Colleen said. I was able to go to the drive-through Madrigals, and I really appreciated the opportunity to get to do that and hear them. They were awesome. I would like to thank all of the staff that we have. I started categorizing it out, and I thought that was dangerous because I would just forget one field of staff, but all of the staff that we have, but the families and the students for riding this with us so that we can make a difference academically in the instruction of our students. I know today I ran into Lincoln Trail and saw all of the little things out for the different kids to get when they pick up, and it's exciting to see that people are still planning and working. So thank you to everybody for doing that.
Thank you. Merle?
I read last week and I was surprised and delighted to see the data that Champaign County and Piatt County are the two lowest COVID counties out of our 102 in the state. So kudos to our local folks and all the others that keep this thing going the way as well as it has.
Thank you. I want to echo two things. First of all, I think it is really cool the Madrigals recorded their program. And I think it just goes to show that we are we've got students and staff that are really working hard, trying to do as much as we can in the circumstances that we're operating under. And I just thought that was fabulous when I heard that was happening. And then the other thing is just a thank you to really all of our staff. You know, we all know this year hasn't looked like any of us would really prefer it looks, right? And back in July when we were talking about what we were going to do the first semester, regardless of whether you thought we should be fully in or fully remote or hybrid or whatever you thought, I don't think any of us ever thought we would be sitting here 4 days prior to Christmas break and not have had to take any kind of a shutdown break. And I think that's just a credit to the folks that are in our buildings every day. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. I know you're working under some really, really odd and often difficult circumstances. And we're doing the best we can to do the best we can. And it is just, it's outstanding that we're at this point. So thank you so much. Financial update, Heather.
Hello. Good evening, Board and Dr. Hall. I'm sure you looked at the reports already. You can see that revenue is a little bit down right now, just compared to where we are in the year. Of course, that is our taxes, our property taxes. They have assured me that they will try to get another disbursement out by the end of this week. Okay. So, hoping to get those soon. The only thing that's really down though is our education fund in our operational funds, and it's not that much. So expenses, of course, our capital projects fund is up a little bit. That's just because we spent the bond money out of it for the field house. Our debt service, a lot of our payments are at the beginning of the year, so it looks like we're a little ahead on that, but that's just because it's front loaded in the year, beginning of the year. O&M, we have some grant expenditures in there, which will be offset with revenue. And of course, transportation, our bus leases are already hit. So just to understand why the proportion's a little bit off. We are looking at our grants on a regular basis. Dr. Hall did a great job of getting some supporters for our tents, so we were able to move some other expenses into our CARES grant. And we are holding steady with sales tax at 6.21% for the year. So, that's, does anybody have any questions or anything?
Questions for Heather? I know days of cash still look pretty good.
Yeah, we're still at around 100 days, and a lot of that is due, a little bit of the increase is due to the fact that we have submitted some of our expenditures for the CARES grant and the digital equity grant, so we've received some of that money. So.
Good news.
So we'll just hope that the state keeps sending money. And I say that because I was around in 2010 when they stopped, they slowed down their categoricals and such. So just waiting, see. Hopefully they will not do that, especially since we did not get our tier money this year.
I think I saw somewhere where the state's doing are they doing another federal loan or something, or another federal?
Yes,
Yes, money for us. I don't know that we know about that yet, but
yeah, we have not heard that yet, but I will definitely keep an eye out for it. So it would be nice if we are, using quite a bit of custodial supplies, and so far we've been able to cover them with the CARES grant, but I'm assuming, next semester if we will continue to have more and more supplies, so it'd be nice if we got some more money for those purposes.
Anything else for Heather?
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. You're coming back later for
Yes, I am.
several items.
You're like up and down, up and down.
Christine Northup, are you with us? Yes, I see you.
Nothing to report other than what's in the report and to take any questions you might have.
Okay, board members, you've had a chance to look at Christine's report. Are there any questions? Okay, Nicole Rommel, you're there. Hi.
Hi. I use this month just to provide you with some of the data that Dr. Kevin Tan collected last spring from our freshmen. We'll continue with this study moving into this coming spring. So we have, hopefully we'll have multiple years of data over our time together working with him. But I have nothing to add. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions for Dr. Rommel?
No, I'd like to make a comment though. I really like that you included this in here, and I think it has a nice link to our F&P program too. A lot of the lessons that I've noticed that they instruct our freshmen on go around this. So kudos to that program for aligning with the SEL for the kids, and I'm glad to see that those two are working together.
Anything else for Dr. Rommel? Dr. Hall, superintendent report.
Thank you. Well, I will just echo the words of thanks to our staff, students, parents, community members, and to our Board of Education for getting through a successful first semester. Successful is defined in a wide variety of ways right now. Certainly things did not look differently, but it has taken a team effort to be inventive and patient and flexible, and just thank you to our students and families and to everybody. So we'll see what second semester brings, and hopefully there are less challenges, and we'll just continue to get through the 2021 school year. But thanks to everybody, and it's a good time to have 2 weeks away, and I wish everybody the happiest of holidays and a Merry Christmas, and certainly bringing 2020 to closure will maybe feel good. So, on a kind of unrelated note, I just wanted to briefly mention that we have started COVID-19 testing for our staff. And today we did a dry run of our drive-through facility at the junior high, and it went pretty well. So feeling prepared, thanks to Nita Bachman, our health EOPs, and some of our other employees. This has been a collaborative team effort to get this off the ground, and we're very happy to be providing this. So looking forward to doing that for our students starting January 11th. And I would like to publicly congratulate Matt Hensley, our Assistant Principal and Athletics and Activities Director at the high school. He's the recipient of the NFHS Citation Award, which is given each year at the National Athletic Directors Conference. And wouldn't you know it, the National Athletic Directors Conference is in Tampa this year and no one can go. But this citation is awarded to individuals whose contributions have impacted high school activity programs through their association with one of the following groups of professionals: state associations and NFHS staff, athletic directors, coaches, officials, music adjudicators, and directors in speech, debate, and theater directors. So Mr. Hensley's had a very positive impact on our programs, but also at the state and national level too. So we congratulate Matt for his dedication and hard work. And these are all things that take time above and beyond an athletic director's crazy schedule. So just appreciate him and his work that reflects so highly on Mahomet-Seymour School District. Well, thank you.
In another time, we probably have him here, and we could probably do a group photo.
Yes.
We won't do that tonight.
Can I make a comment?
Uh-huh.
Nita, I would like to tell you that I was at Lincoln Trail today and 3 staff were there and they were like, hey, we went and got our testing done today and we thought it was great and easy. And so I just happened to be there and they told me, and I didn't have any doubt they would go well, but thank you so much.
Thanks.
Any questions for Dr. Hall? Okay, we'll move on to new business item number 1, which is the 2020 tax levy. Heather, come back.
She's got a standing job now for a little while.
Tonight-
You just stay there for a while, it looks like.
Yes, I am. Tonight I am proposing the same levy that we looked at the financial committee meeting as well as the last board meeting to keep our rate flat. So what we're doing is we're wanting to keep the rate flat at 4.5979. Our rate is one of the lowest in Champaign County and is lower than the average of the last 20 to 30 years. So Mahomet-Seymour has done very well at keeping the tax rate steady. As you know, there's several things that go into what your tax bill is. It goes into your assessed value and the rate. The item that we can actually affect is the rate. And so usually keeping it a flat is what people like. We have many funds that are restricted, so we only get what we get. So for those, we rely on the assessor to give us an estimate of what he thinks the EAV is going to increase by. This, for the 2020 year, he believes that he or she believes that it will increase by 3.79%. So since those are restricted, we can balloon that just in case it goes up by any more, so that we get the full amount that is due to us based off of those maximum percentages. And then we use the 3.79 to calculate what we do for our restricted funds. That way, if it is only 3.79, it won't increase the rate. So that's basically what you're using the assessor's value for. So with that being said, I'm recommending tonight that we adopt this tax levy so that I can get it in time so that we can hopefully receive our taxes on time.
Okay, Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve and adopt the resolution concerning and affecting the tax levy for 2020 as presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, was that Schultz?
That was Schultz.
That was Colleen, yep. All right, is there further discussion on the levy, Board?
I just want to say thanks to Merle and Ken for their work on the Finance Committee, and to Heather, of course, as well, for putting this together and had some good discussions about it. And so I think we're in a really good spot with this.
Thank you.
I would just.
Hey, Heather.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Heather, can you just remind me, when will we find out what the actual EAV is?
Usually around April.
April. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Merle?
I appreciate the historical references here, and one of the things that I think is most catching for me is the growth that we've actually had in the Mahomet area, with the assessed values being 4 times higher for commercial For instance, farm assessments up, just 3 times, residential up 6x, since 1991. So quite a bit. The other perspective that sometimes we lose track of is actually how we rank in the county with our rates. So the rates historically for us have been in the 4s, and sometimes, in fact, never in the $5 range. The rates in the county today, there are actually 6 school districts that are under $5 and 7 that are over $5. And we're second from the bottom of the entire list. So we have been fiscally conservative all these years, and especially compared to our other folks around. Of course, all the growth and no growth is hard to compare. But
well, especially with the amount that we receive in percentage-wise of state and property, we are highly reliant on property taxes. So that's even better that Mahomet-Seymour has been able to keep lower all these years when they're not getting as much help from the state.
Exactly. So thanks for sharing all that kind of data.
Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Schultz,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes?
Hennessy,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes, and the levy is passed. Boiler bids.
The boiler bids, this is actually good news for me, so, because they
As long as it's good news for you, Heather.
well, I mean,
It's good news for everybody.
this is health and safety money, but we were expecting a lot higher bids, so that's what was good news for me.
Awesome.
So I'm always happy when they come in lower than what I expect and what I plan, so.
I'm happy because good news for you is usually good news for us.
Yes, especially since, like Mr. Curtis has said, 2 of the boilers aren't doing so well. They're sick. So we want to make sure that we keep the building up and running as well as possible, maybe divert them. We did get some bids in. We had the bid on December 8th at 2 p.m. and there were 4 bidders. Our low bidder is who I am recommending tonight is Davis Hawk Mechanical. Huh?
It's Hauk.
Okay, sorry. Hauk Mechanical. And they came out at $106,900, which what we had expected was around $130,000. So to your question, Megan, at the last board meeting, we will still have some money left in health, life, safety even before the new tax money starts coming in. So
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So I would like to accept these bids tonight and get them ordering all of the parts needed.
Superintendent recommends the Board of Education accept the bid from Davis House Mechanical to replace 2 boilers at Mahomet-Seymour High School. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved. Larson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Giles. Further discussion or questions or comments?
Heather, on the bid tabulation form, all the way to the right, it says for Davis Hulk that there's 140 days. What does that mean?
That's just their estimate on when they would get it completed. We just wanted to make sure that really wasn't into any of the decision making, but just making sure that it wasn't going to take longer than what we wanted. So we just asked them to provide the number of days that they would take to get it done.
Is Steve survive 140 days?
Yes, and
Yes, he's right over. Yes.
yes.
I didn't know
Yeah,
he
I
was
think
there.
we're in okay shape at the moment, so I'm confident with this.
Okay,
And
thank
it's
you.
safe to assume they might, in probability, they might meet that. They're just
Yeah,
give us
this
the
is
worst
a
case.
timeline.
Yeah.
The architect wrote that in to so that all bidders knew that there was we were ready to jump on this, so they weren't going to be able to wait until next year.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, it's finally cold. It's been so nice.
Okay, good, yeah, that's something we haven't always seen on bids.
Right.
It's a number of day thing. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please, Heather.
Keith,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Hendricks, Hendricks,
Jeremy is no longer on call.
We've temporarily lost Jeremy.
Schultz,
Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Can you work on getting Jeremy back?
Yes, I know right now.
Okay. Okay. We'll keep rolling. Next item is the fuel bid.
Is Jeremy back?
He's gonna try to get him.
We're not sure if we can get him. We're hoping we can.
I think he lost cell phone service.
Jeremy did not have internet service. He's called in on cell, and we think we may have temporarily lost cell service. Oh,
He just rejoined.
I just would like him to be on before we continue. Thanks.
Jeremy, are we back?
That's why we were dialing, bud.
There it is.
Jeremy?
See if you heard the boy over here.
You Jeremy?
He's here. Just say yes.
I voted yes.
You voted yes. Welcome back.
It must have been silently.
Okay. Fuel bids. Heather.
Okay, fuel bid, our fuel bid, our contract had expired, so we, with Paxton Buckley Loda, we joined with them to do our fuel bid so that we can gain on the economies of scale, putting it together. We had the bid on December 9th at 10 a.m. We received 3 bids. Usually we receive 4, but 2 of them went in together this time. I gave an option for a 1-year and a 2-year option to try to capitalize on the low fuel rates as well. But we also made it so that we can now, because of the times we're in right now, we can actually buy out the rack too if it's cheaper, so we can choose whether we want to buy out the rack or buy out the pre-sold fuel. And that way we don't have so much money tied up in the fuel as well. So we asked for fixed and variable costs based off of that, because the fixed will be for the fuel that we put back. The variable tells us how much they're going to charge us over the actual fuel cost. So after looking at the bids, I would like to propose going with the 2-year with Ken's Oil. That is who we've had in the past, but also they were the lowest on the fixed, and the variable, they were just a little bit higher, but when you mix the two together and you do the analysis, it ends up the lowest for Ken's Oil. So I'd like to do a 2-year contract with Ken's Oil.
Okay, and is it safe to assume that PBL is gonna?
Yes, they are.
They're
They're doing
have the
this.
same recommendation?
Yes, they're having the same recommendation at their meeting on Wednesday.
Okay. So superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the fuel bids from Chems Oil for the next 2 years. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we have questions or comments or discussion?
Just
For Heather.
Just a question, Heather. It seemed like we did this with PBL last time.
Yes.
Are the actual rates less or more than our last contract? Are things down?
Yes, right now.
Okay.
Which is why you don't like in 2 years, because they're down.
Yes. And and we kind of we compromised a little bit to doing the half and half. That way we can buy it when it's even further down than our contract, but then we can use the fuel that we have, because this last year has been really hard on them as well, because we had a lot of fuel locked in, or, estimated. We didn't really lock in, but estimated. So they had bought a lot more fuel that we didn't use.
Well, because nobody ran buses in the spring,
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
including us.
Have to deliver meals.
Well, again, say we use no buses is not accurate, but we used way less bus transportation than we we delivered meals and delivered hotspots.
Right. That's something to be proud of.
There you go. Any other questions for Heather, or comments, or discussion? Vote please, Tom.
Giles,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes. Next, board policies 110, 310, and 610. Dr. Hall.
So these policies were in front of the board last month for a first reading, and they just represent some added wording to these three policies, which affirms the board's work in these areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our school district. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, these are just coming back for a vote after being in front of the board last month.
Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the revisions to policies 1:10, 3:10, and 6:10 as presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved, Tennessee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Giles. Discussion or questions for Dr. Hall?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm curious, does this put us in any legal peril at all if we don't meet these objectives? In other words, if a teacher or a staff member says something that is perceived as not equitable or maybe hurtful to somebody in some way, and if are they in some sort of peril as far as, loss of job, suspension without pay? I just have concerns about putting something like in here that we don't have anything that really, who determines what's equitable? Who determines what's inclusive? Because by being inclusive for one subset of individual, you might exclude another subset of individuals. So I really have some concern about putting language like this into our policies. Although the goals are good, I don't disagree with that. I think that it puts us in some jeopardy, and I can't vote for it.
So we currently already have a process in place to file a complaint or grievance under a couple of different policies that we currently have and that are in place, specifically 7:10 equal educational opportunities. So that mechanism is already there. Should a student or staff member feel that there is a reason to file a complaint under Title IX or under our harassment or equal educational opportunities policies, I mean, that's already been in place. So that's there already. This doesn't create, in my opinion, this doesn't create more of that. I think it actually again affirms the board's commitment to preserving that. I appreciate that the question. I think it's a good question. I think that at any given time, we're also going through and providing a lot of professional development and training for our staff, hopefully to provide a foundation for what these things look like in our school district. But again, there is a formal mechanism in place that is guided by our current policies. A lot of that was updated actually last month in approving the Press 105 updates. There was quite a bit of information in there about Title IX and about the complaint procedure and the investigation procedure. So I feel like there are procedures and steps in place that would guide, I guess, the complaint procedure, should that be there. And that certainly is out there and available if people feel that there's a need to file a complaint.
I guess my concern is more district-wide. What if someone's concerned that we're not meeting objectives district-wide? Does that set us up for some sort of consent decree?
I think that can happen right now without even adopting these policies.
Can I ask a question or a statement? It's so spelled out. What if it said students benefit from a diverse, inclusive, and equitable learning environment that promotes the social and emotional learning of all students, period?
I guess the question I have is, what does this do in our district? Like, how does this change what we're doing? Do we have a different policy or different procedures? I mean, this is policy, I guess. Or how does this make anything different to adopt this? Do we change what we're doing, or what's it going to look like?
Well, I think one thing that it looks like has been conversations that perhaps haven't taken place or haven't been as in-depth as they have been in the past. Professional development and training for our staff. This is also a board statement. I mean, the policies are what guide the board. These three policies happen to be more of like, the philosophy or goal statements. They affirm a philosophy. They affirm goals that we have. There are things I think we've heard over the last 6 months that we do need to do differently in our district. So this could reflect that. I mean, we've heard from constituents, we've heard from former students, we've made a lot of effort and devoted a lot of resources to the town hall meetings. Again, I go back to the trainings that we've provided for our staff this past fall. So should things look different going forward? Yeah, we're always working on this, and we should be.
Other questions for Dr. Hall or comments? Okay, have a vote, please.
Larson,
Yes.
Hendricks,
No.
Giles,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Schultz,
Present.
McComb.
Yes. Okay.
So what was the final score there?
Pass.
Yeah.
5-1. Yeah, 5-1.
So I would just like to respectfully ask the board, these were brought to you in November. I've heard nothing from anybody since November 16th. And I'm available, so is Dr. Rummel, should these things want to be talked through, or available for any questions and that type of thing. I don't say that to shut down communication in this venue, but I might have been able to answer some more questions ahead of time. So always happy to do that with any board member at any time if there's questions in advance.
I guess I just feel like all the things that we said are things we've already done, and I just didn't see that this was going to change things, and so I just didn't know. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And I can just say for me, as I delayed on thinking about it, is that I think all is all. And I think that's good. So I voted for it. So
I certainly want to say I'm not opposed to that. I believe all is all too. I sort of make sure what we do accomplishes what it is that we want to do. And so I struggle with
I don't disagree.
things. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So I don't disagree with Colleen. I feel like the diversity industry is a $1 billion industry. They've been doing this for decades, and they've got nothing to show for it. So to me, it's just a bunch of fluff. And I honestly, I don't see how it improves our students' lives. I don't see how it improves our teachers' lives. I'm not sure what it has to do with education. So I struggle with the whole concept in general, along with, I think there's potential peril for the district legally if you don't live up to your objectives. And I don't know, I can't support it.
Yeah, I guess I want to be clear that I certainly support diversity and equity. I just keep reflecting back on the students I heard talk about how they've been hurting. And I'm just wondering what we can do that's going to change that and make things better. And that's what I want to strive for.
Okay. Item 5, Community Engagement Facilitating Team, Dr. Hall.
Okay, part of our next steps with the Community Engagement Initiative was to put together the facilitating team. Those folks are listed on the page, second page behind the board bar. And on December 1st, 2 members of our Board of Education, Mr. McComb and Dr. Schultz, 2 community members, and 2 members of our administrative team and myself met for the purpose of selecting and putting together the facilitating team. I've received almost 140, I think 138 names from various community leaders as well as school employees, and we narrowed that down to the list of folks who are presented here tonight. This is an outstanding group of individuals from our community. We'll be having an orientation meeting in early January, so they can hear about the process and about exactly what is involved with being on the facilitating team. This is the group that is going to guide and plan our community engagement initiative when we start working toward those meetings later in the spring that will involve inviting all of our community in to put together a long-term facilities plan. So I am recommending that the board approve this group, and we'll get them together in January and move ahead from there.
So the superintendent recommends the board approve the facilitating team for the district's community engagement initiative as is presented. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved, Larson.
Is there a second? Okay, I'll second it. Is there a discussion?
Hey, Max, I'd like to make a motion that we table this item until the May meeting.
Until the May meeting?
Our consultants are getting started with this in June, or I'm sorry, January.
Well, if there's no second, then we can just move on.
So if we go back to the original, I made motion, you second.
I would like to second that just because I'd like to understand some discussion about what Ken means by that.
We talked about it at the last meeting.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to delay this until May. Ken, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. This, simply put, is an undertaking that's going to take many months, and it's going to produce a product that is going to be used in the coming year or two. It's going to be used primarily by the next board. We have an election coming up in April, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but of the 4 members that are guaranteed to be on the board come May, 3 of them are not in support of this process that we have put together. So I think it's imperative that we let the next board, the board that's actually going to use this product, decide whether or not this is the method they want to use to engage with the community. I think it's totally reasonable to get everything ready. I think we should gather data and prepare, survey inputs like Dr. Hall has begun doing. And I think we should have that all ready for the next board. But I think that the next board should actually initiate the process that they want to use, since they're the ones that are going to be using it. And so I think we should just postpone this action until May.
I think we talked about that when we decided to even go down this road.
That point was made before. I absolutely disagree with this. We do not need to put a roadblock in something that's moving forward. If something happens, then we can make a transition, but we've got the people's names outlined, the staff outlined, and it is just a couple of people's directives that are out of, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 26 names on there, and you're saying just because of 2 people might not being the same, which may not be, to put a roadblock in that. I don't think that's efficient use of our time, our management, or our planning to get a strategy going to make some progress in the community for some development that needs to occur to benefit our students' education.
Lori, I'm actually trying to save the time of these folks. I don't want to waste their time on a process that they're going to spend over the next couple of months if the next board is going to come in and change directions, put a new committee in place, assign a new task. We don't know what the next board is going to want to do. My point is that this is something that the next board is going to use. The 7 of us, we are not going to use it because this board won't be around anymore. The next board will be the one using the product of this work. And I don't want to waste these 26 people's time.
Actually, I think it's a great asset to use them because then you can get the information that's desired out there by the 24 of the 26 people, and you can push that information to whatever the board composition is made up of. So I politely disagree with that.
You know, the board is a kind of a continuum over time. There's always things put in place by boards that affect the district ongoing. And I just find it interesting and somewhat disrespectful that there's been a push lately by some of our board members to try to invalidate what previous boards have done. Our community deserves to see us being prudent about planning and moving forward, and we need to do that.
This isn't a card game. This is our community's benefit to make the best schools and environment that we need to benefit them. It's not representative of 7 people on it. It's 24 of 26 people that will guide that direction to the board of 7.
So I suggest we do planning that supplies the work that we're doing now then. We should do planning that affects the work that we're doing now. We shouldn't do planning that we expect the next board to use and be forced to use. It's just. So
you're saying the board in 6 months from now isn't going to care what the community thinks? Now?
That's what it sounds like.
That's not what I'm saying at all, Max. Come on, let's not mess around. I'm saying that the next board may or may not believe that this is the correct process for engaging with the community. Of course, the next board is going to care about engaging with the community. And I think this board cares about engaging with the community. My point is we shouldn't define the process that the next board is going to have to use. Let the next board decide.
Sorry, Ken, I'm sorry.
Ken, I think that's a poor board process to try to split between one board and another. I think that's poor practice at any given time. I think our opportunity to learn is high, and wouldn't even characterize the first meetings as planning, but rather information gathering. I think the way it's set up specifically in the written process and in practice, it would be the information gathering that I think is extremely valuable to get ahead of in the spring.
I think it's prejudgmental to think that you know that if the board does whatever you think or predict it's going to do, that the ideology would change too. That's discriminatory right there. You're coming in with a prejudged idea. When we just voted on something to make it be equal. So I can't imagine that we would waste time when we have an opportunity here in front of us to start the ball rolling. In fact, it would be a gift to the people coming in. This is the background that's been done. It's just like when you pilot a curriculum. You have the information, you've tried it out, you know what's going on, and then that helps you make better decisions in the future.
You know, using that logic, whatever this committee puts in place is probably not, is gonna be implemented over several years. So even if nothing started until the next board was sworn in, that board isn't gonna be around for 2 years. So at the end of those 2 years, do we throw it all out again?
Well, yeah,
That's bad practice.
That's bad practice. Anyway, if anyone else has anything to add, we can take a vote on that. Hang on, does anybody else have anything to add to that discussion? Okay, so we're voting on the motion to postpone until May.
Hendricks,
No.
Hennessy, Hennessy,
No.
no. Schultz,
No.
Larson,
No.
Giles,
No.
Keith,
Yes.
McComb.
No. All right, so we're back to the motion on the table. The original motion on the table, which was to approve this committee. Is there discussion on that?
Max, you said you were part of the team that led the selection of this committee, is that right?
I was a participant with, the consultant actually led the committee that put this together. I was a participant in that process.
Do you know how many members of the selected committee are under the age of 30?
I know we made an effort to do that.
You mean on the selection committee or on the facilitating team?
The facilitating team.
I don't know exact ages, and frankly, I don't know how appropriate it is to ask that in a public setting, but we did make a great effort to look at the different stages in life that people were at in terms of where their kids are or where they are in their careers, and so it is a diverse group who have varying ages of children in the schools.
So do we have any students on the committee or on the team?
There are not students on this team.
Do we have any teachers on this team?
Yes,
How many?
it's listed there, Derek Halfar.
Do you know how many people on the team have children at MPE?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, I can count, and I don't know for sure. Some do.
Do you know, is there anyone on the team that has kids that get free and reduced lunch?
I do not know that, nor do I think that's appropriate for public discussion.
I will say there was a concerted effort to try to come up with a diverse group in as many ways as we felt we could do that, including most of the categories that you just mentioned.
So the effort was made. Do you think it was successful though, Max?
Yeah, I do.
And what are you basing that on?
My opinion. You said, do I think? Well, that would be my opinion. My opinion is it's a good group that does.
Was there some sort of background sheet that the group discussed, the selection committee discussed about each member? Or did everyone just know everyone?
Everyone did not know everybody.
Have those candidates, have any of the candidates, I wasn't involved in any of this process, so have any of the candidates kind of submitted reasons that they'd like to be involved in this committee and the skill set that they think will be helpful to this committee? How was that selection of the 140 names made and narrowed down to the ones that are on the list?
The 140
What was the
names,
criteria?
the 140 names came, I sent you the list, I sent the board the list of the people who were asked to submit names. Those people submitted names based upon their belief that these people fit, or the people that they recommended fit the criteria that was also sent to them.
And all that was sent out in consultation with Rod Wright, using templates he'd used before and processes he'd used before.
Are any of the community members running Board of Education?
We don't know yet. The filing period, they've not posted who's filed yet. There's only been one filing day. And the filing period lasts till Friday.
Is anybody aware? I'm asking the board members, anyone aware of somebody that's running?
I think it's a bit premature to predict that, and the filing period is this week.
Other questions or comments? Okay, done.
Hennessy,
I abstain.
Schultz,
Present.
Keith,
No.
Giles,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
McComb.
Yes.
I will once again just say that I'm available for conversation and questions ahead of the board meeting. Not shutting down any conversation taking place here, but we might be able to save some time, and I'm happy to engage in those conversations with any board members ahead of time to answer those kinds of questions about this process. Anything else?
Okay, item 6 is potential revision to board policy 2:30. Board members, you received 2 potential versions of policy 2:30. Each tweaks the policy in a couple different ways. This has to do with public participation. We've had several meetings this year where we've had a substantial amount of public participation, and we've been working to strike a balance. Certainly, we are interested in what the public has to say. We're also have had concerns about time of being able to get to the business of the evening and through the business of the meeting in a timely manner. There's many nights we've been here very late. And one thing that we've talked a little bit about informally, as we've struggled with this, is the current policy and the 2 new versions presented for you to consider maintain this. that we could, if we wanted to, once we've hit the minimum minutes, cap the time and just say we're done. The problem we've had and the concern we've had is, A, do we really want to turn people away that want to address the board? And we've been hesitant to do that, and I certainly understand why and share those concerns. And then the second part of that is, even if we were, how do we do that? Do we draw names? Do we just let the first however many people say you can talk, and if you sign up late, you can? And it becomes kind of cumbersome and difficult. So what these two potential revisions say is, rather than, the option is still in there where I guess we could cap total time if we wanted to, but again, we've not felt that has been prudent. We've not felt that's something we want to do, and even if we did, like I said, it would be awkward. So the other option is to kind of look at the amount of time everyone's allowed to speak. So there's a version in front of you that changes the time everyone's allowed to speak from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. And then there's a version in front of you that changes the time to a scalable option, where depending on how many people wanted to speak, we could set the time between 2 minutes and 5 minutes, depending on the sheer number of people wanting to address the board that evening. The advantage of the 3 minutes would be that it would be very consistent. People would know what to plan on. The advantage of the scalable option is, you know, a night like tonight where there are not very many people wanting to address, we could allow everybody 5 minutes still and not scale it back until we had more folks. But then the downside is they wouldn't necessarily know as they were planning how long we were going to allow that night. So there's two options for you to consider, and we're not going to vote on any of those tonight, but we can talk about them a little bit. And if there's an option there that you kind of like, we can bring it back next month for a vote. Or we could leave it the way it is. So thoughts on either of those options?
My comment doesn't so much go necessarily to the public. I think there should be a limit, but then it should be the same. When we talked about the Robert Rule of Order one time, we talked about the same thing with board members. Sometimes we speak too much and too often, and I said we, I'm part of that, and we go back and forth, and we've taken up the turns, and we got to a time where we were looking at Robert Rule of Order and we were following that, and you had your times, and then we got off that because frankly, part of the mismanagement of our time, we have ourselves to blame. We've taken too much time talking about things over and over and over again. And so if we're gonna put the public to the same kind of restriction, then I feel like we need to model it ourselves as well.
Any other thoughts on either of these two options?
I personally suggest we don't change the policies. I think they're a good balance already.
Okay. Max, make a good point. Go ahead.
No, you can go first.
A good point that the public deserves to know how to write what they're going to speak, and that limit is helpful in actually getting the right kind of information from them. So on the night of, say it's 2 minutes when somebody prepared 5, I think is difficult.
I agree with Merle. Also, in the 18 months or so since I've been on the board, the average number of people who have spoken at each of our meetings is only 4.44. So while we had one meeting this year that went pretty long in terms of public comment. That's actually not the norm, right? We've never, but besides that one meeting, we've never gone over an hour. Most often we don't even go over half an hour. And so I'm not sure the average of 8 minutes that we're saving is worth the thought that we're not going to allow people to speak as much as we do now.
Appreciate those comments. Anybody else?
I like the idea of people they should know what their allotted time is going to be so they can be prepared. I don't know, personally, I think 3 minutes is enough. If you can be clear and concise and what you have to say, you're going to make a better point anyway. So I'm certainly okay with 3 minutes.
Well, I certainly agree that there are efficiency gains to be made in the meeting. I feel like to Colleen's point, public comment is really not the issue that probably will save us the most efficiencies. I think we've talked previously about ways to tighten up these meetings, but we haven't ever seen any of those changes come to fruition. And I think that because the board meeting is the only opportunity that the public has to come and speak directly to the board, limiting or constricting that is not the best, does not serve us when that's the community that we serve. I don't want to limit their ability to have, and their only contact points to have with the board. But I sure would like to see some efficiency gains in the meetings.
Okay. Anyone else with anything? From what I've heard so far, I think we're just going to leave things the way they are. And certainly the variable option's dead. Okay, well, thank you. We'll take that in. If anyone's got any other thoughts on that, share those with me and we can come back to that at some other point if we feel like we need to. Item 7, COVID-19 update. Dr. Hall.
Well, I think the main update I'd like to provide is just, again, revisiting the implementation of the testing. And so Nita's here. I don't know if you want to add anything, Nita, other than we're excited to be able to offer that. And it's going well and looking forward to adding students to the groups of people that we test once we come back in January. So I don't know if you have.
I could just say that our test run today was great. Our plan worked as we hoped it would. We had a few minor little tweaks. Organizationally, I think we have a plan in place that will enable us to move forward in January with testing our students. So I'm interested to see how that will go. And we have a great response so far from both our staff and our students as far as consents already in. Even though we aren't starting until January 11th, we have about 250 consents from students already. So that's great. We've started doing some limited testing in our buildings already with staff and a few students. So far so good. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can tell you that we have done, for December so far, we've tested 122 staff and 16 students and have had 1 positive identified. What else do you want to know?
Nita, how are we going to, what's the plan for testing students in January? I know you're still working on it, but what are the basic concepts, or what's the general plan that we have?
Yeah, so what our plan is, that we actually are going to do the drive-through testing. Cars will be able to on Mondays, Any family can bring their students to be tested. They will enter off Main Street going towards State Street. We have a setup at the bus lane on the junior high. We have 2 doors there. We practiced that plan today, and any parent can bring their students with a consent and be tested. In our buildings during the week, our staff are currently making appointments with our health EOPs to be tested as much as once a week. Some have been more. We also are able to, in the buildings, if we have students who are identified as symptomatic or sent to the office for something, we will connect with the parents. If it's a situation where we would be sending that student home and calling the parent, then we will talk with that parent about whether they want that student tested. Eventually, we hope to then be able to add the component of a PCR test if they are symptomatic and still test negative, that we would on site be able to do the PCR and send that off to Carl for processing. Those cost us a little bit, and some insurances don't take that. The nice thing about the antigen testing is it's free not only to us as a district, but it's also free to all families, so they don't have to worry about their insurance. So right now, that's been very helpful. We also learned from public health with their new guidelines, if people want early release from quarantine, if we do an antigen test on site and that's negative, we are able to bypass the process of them having to email public health, get a letter, send all their stuff to them. If we see the negative test ourselves, then we are able to go ahead and do that release based on public health guidelines. So there are a lot of potential positives if we're able to identify. Actually, if we're able to identify even just a few positives, that's more than we were doing before with no testing. This, along with the mitigation efforts we have right now with distancing and masks and the cleaning that the custodial crew is doing and the extraordinary efforts that the faculty and the administrators have put forth, I think is just one more tool in our toolbox, if you will, that will keep us moving forward. Like somebody mentioned early, it's kind of amazing that we're in the middle of December and we're one of the few schools in the area that hasn't had to shut down. So I'm pretty proud of us right now. But I think that our plan for the drive-through testing, we hope to test as many families as want to come through. We would go from 8 to noon, and then because the law says I have to give people a lunch break, we would go from 8 to noon.
Nice habits.
And then we go from 1 to 6 to allow for some people to be able to test after work, because there are going to be families that just can't come during the day. And then we'll adjust that if we need to.
Can we prioritize like junior high and high school students where the space is a little bit more cramped, so where they can be tested on a weekly basis on Mondays, at the start of the week? Or is the goal just to try and get everybody tested on Mondays if we can?
Well, right now they have that option. Every parent can bring their kid to be tested on Monday before they come back to school on Tuesday right now. That's already in the plan. So it's just part of the drive-through testing. There's no limit on who could be tested. The only limit is that they have to have a consent. So that kind of is our hope, that parents will take advantage of that. And some of the feedback we've heard so far is that they're very excited about that possibility of being able to have their students tested before the week starts. And we're hopeful that a lot of them will take advantage of that. So we have no limit on the number of people that we will test on a Monday, as long as they come through. So if we have to make adjustments time-wise to accommodate, we will, I think, very quickly know that, and we'll be able to do so in an effort to test as many students as we can.
Nita, if this goes over bigger than we envisioned, what's the availability of additional tests like?
Right now I have 57,600 minus the 122 we've done. Okay. So,
and we've got 4,000. All right, so we didn't test everybody a bunch of times so far.
I'm okay so far. And they actually recommended that I go ahead and order a lot so I don't have to reorder as often. Public health, when I got them through public health.
Okay.
So I ordered 60,000 and got 57,600.
Okay.
So I competed with some of the nursing homes in Champaign County to get them, I think, so. So I think I think we're in pretty good shape. Moving forward, we don't have as many of the PCR, of course, because that's not something we'll do wholesale because it does cost us, and the insurance component.
So we're limited in like testing all students. Of course, there would, in a population of students as large as we have, there would be some families that would not give consent, but assuming that most families would, we're limited just by staff and also by space.
Right.
So this is a really task intensive process because just doing the swab is like the first of how many steps that goes through multiple people, and then it ends up, the end result is that within 24 hours it has to be entered into an IDPH portal. So it takes a lot of human resource to make this happen, and we feel like we've kind of we're at our, well, since we haven't done it, we don't know, right? So when we start testing students, we'll find out. But
yeah.
Well,
It's about an 8-step process,
Yeah.
and today I used 20 people. And I tested just the few staff that went through the drive-through. Those 20 people would be the same that I will begin with, and potentially would need a few more if I'm looking at traffic needs and things like that to control traffic. Our process right now is an 8-step process that seems to be fairly efficient, and that's kind of my deal, is being efficient and organized. So hopefully that will continue to play out, and that was, I felt good about the way that it went. I'm hopeful that that would continue to work well. We'll see how many people we can do in a half hour, and we'll push it.
Well, according to the quick, rough, very approximate math, if we've got 57,000 tests, we could test all students and staff, if everybody got tested, 14 times apiece.
And there you go.
And we know we're not gonna test everybody.
And if you
So-
think about that, that's
So I
only
think we're in
14
good shape. I think that answers my question about are we in good shape with number of tests?
That would be.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in great shape with the test. One question that I think, or something that we need to consider, is that if we're able to identify students or staff that have had confirmed cases, meaning they've tested positive, not just been diagnosed to say, someone just said, well, you've got COVID, but actually confirmed test positive within 3 months, they don't need to be retested.
Right.
So it also shrinks the line. So we need to, if we're able to, I don't know if you keep a spreadsheet on that already or not, but if you've got confirmed positives, then those people within 3 months don't need to be retested.
Right.
Don't waste your tests.
And we have taken that into consideration. So yeah, but several of the people that have tested positive now are out of their 3 months. So of course we have the 50 in November that wouldn't need to be tested again right away. And so we certainly can earmark those.
What?
Are there medical license requirements for us to be setting up a testing facility? And if so, whose licensure are we using for this?
We have to have, right now there's an emergency authorization through the federal government that we can do CLIA waivers to do antigen tests only. If we would do the PCR test, that will go through Carl. We won't be reading those tests or processing them. The antigen tests are the rapid tests, and the CLIA waiver we have obtained. And that's on my nursing license, and we have a physician at Christie who's underwritten us as our authorizing physician to do the testing. So we're working in collaboration with not only public health, but also the physician that at Christie, and then I'm overseeing it here on site.
Okay, and has any additional Hipaa training, is it required now that we're starting to collect health data on individuals? Do we have to go through Hipaa training? Do the people involved have to go through Hipaa training?
Well, unlike some of the actual hospital trainings that have to happen what I have done is I've had several meetings with the people that are going to be working. I kind of hand selected the people that are going to be working in this environment. And most of those people are people who've already had to go through confidentiality training in some fashion for their position. And so we're working very closely on that so that if you walk into the room at any given time, you should never hear a name spoken other than mine when they're calling me. But we have, that's a super important component, Megan, so thanks for asking that. I think that I have reiterated that a number of times to all of the people who are working in this, when I did part of the training, that was part of the training that I did.
But I just need legislatively, there's no HIPAA requirement for the training of people who are going to be performing these tests.
There's no training required for that, but I'm requiring that everybody have that type of level of confidentiality before they can work for us and before they can do this for us. Kind of like, for example, a couple of the people are actually people who work in our administrative offices who've offered to help us. Their job are the most confidential job. Handling sensitive information is the job of most of the people that are working with me, including the health EOPs and several of the office staff who work with very sensitive information all the time. So there's no requirement that says you have to have this and this training to do this because we aren't a clinic. We really literally just got a CLIA waiver as an emergency testing site for the POC antigen testing as a way to get more testing out there for people that in one area that's sorely lacking has been testing. So schools were among the people that they were looking to get this set up for.
Right, and are there, HIPAA is pretty serious stuff, so what systems requirements and what have we done systems wise to lock down this confidential health information that we're going to be collecting and tracking?
Well, the thing is this is not different than what public health is working with. I'm doing the same things. All the reporting is going to the state. So the state reporting is happening in-house, and we're using the forms in-house based on just the consents that parents are giving us. So we're not sharing this information with anyone in the district differently than what public health shares with me when they have a student who tests positive. Because
no, but
it's different than a clinic where I'm talking about your physical exam. This is a situation just with public health and just the public health safety of making sure that people are identified as positive in quarantine. So, and as far as our system in-house, we're not sharing that with anybody other than those who are just simply working in the system to do the testing with us.
But again, sorry, so I haven't had the benefit of talking to the lawyers about this, so maybe you already had this discussion with them. If we are hacked, the liability would sit with the district because we're keeping that information on our systems. Is that correct? It's not as if we're storing this with the public health department, or we're storing it with us.
So we're utilizing the public health systems. There is none of that data that is stored with us.
Okay.
It's all their servers. They provided us all the information.
Okay.
Just
to clarify, I know we've talked about a couple of different testing scenarios, and I want to confirm what I heard tonight is that with the tests that we're running right now, there is no insurance component required, and so we won't be dealing with any sort of insurance information in any manner for the testing we're currently doing. Is that correct?
That is correct. For the antigen test that we are doing, there is no insurance component. If we do the PCR testing through Carl, we do have to collect insurance information, and that's a step that we have not taken yet. We have secured some of the test kits at this point, but we have not gone in that direction quite yet because one, I don't want to take on another thing until I know that we're doing this one correctly and accurately. So I want to make sure that we're kind of taking baby steps to do that. But secondly, the next component does require a lot more paperwork because I have to have people fill out Carl's, HIPAA. I mean, and part of our two pieces here, Megan. One, For the PCR testing, I have to do a requisition for Carl, I have to gather insurance information, and then people have to also do their consent and their HIPAA, okay? The patient does. For our consent, we did have the attorneys look over our consent forms to make sure that they were complete. They do include a statement that says that this information has to be shared with public health entities. So that's included in our consent form before people sign it. And that's what was included by our attorneys. Our attorneys looked at the consent and they determined, yes, this is good to go. Yes, you can put it forth. And Dr. Hall sent those to the attorneys. I sat in on a couple of webinars with some of the attorneys. That was, I sat in on a webinar with IDPH. So I've listened to several different, I've tried to learn as much as I can. So yeah, we are covered in that way, just to make sure that parents are aware that their information will be shared with the appropriate entities as a matter of public health safety.
Okay, and if something goes awry and there's a lawsuit filed, who holds the liability and would be filed against? Is that the district?
Well, my guess is, here's what could happen. My guess is if people get sideways and decide that they're gonna sue us, they're gonna sue anybody they think that they can maybe get something out of. So it's probably gonna be me, the district, the board. My guess is that they would sue anybody. And I don't think there's, typically in my experience, rarely does somebody sue just one person. Usually there are a number of people that are included in that. So whether or not it's valid or not, doesn't mean if somebody has an inkling to sue somebody that they're not gonna go wherever they can. So I can't answer that since I'm not an attorney, but my license is on the CLIA waiver. Dr. Palazzolo's information is on the authorizations, and we're doing it as a district. So I guess you've got a lot of different entities that are involved. Can I sign a waiver?
Okay, and then what did our attorneys say about, does this increase our liability, or what's the risk increase from, I mean, because essentially we're becoming a testing facility, and so that's an increase of risk that we have that we wouldn't be taking on if we weren't doing testing of this nature. So what was the attorney's feedback on increased liability and risk for adding these services?
During the last webinar that I attended, that I listened to, they think everybody should be doing this because it's just the antigen testing. This is not diagnostic. We're not telling people anything other than if a test comes back positive, we're going to quarantine them. Then it has to go through the state reporting. Then it has to go through a public health entity. We simply are doing a mass screening rather than an actual diagnostic. We're just doing a screening that will hopefully catch a couple people that may be positive. We're not a state testing site. We are just a school, and that's one of the emergency measures that has come through to let schools, to let nursing homes, to let other entities, long-term care facilities and communal living situations to actually have this type of testing to try to reduce the spread in their environments and to try to stay safe. Because in that effort to try to take care of things in the community so that the healthcare system is not overrun, and so that, because several weeks ago, we were so far behind in Champaign with some of the testing that I was getting positive results 7 days after they had been run. So that really does no good, which is no wonder that it's spreading like wildfire because people weren't getting their test results back. So I think that from that standpoint, I think that they were excited for people to do this. And I know that there are several other districts that are doing a lot of different kinds of testing, multiple kinds of testing that we just right now aren't ready to do.
Okay, and sorry, I just have one more question. I know I've got a lot. Thank you for bearing with me.
Sure.
Procedurally, this is not going to change our approach to anyone. It sounded to me like the drive-through screening is a separate entity from what we would do with kids or staff members or employees. that come into the building symptomatic, because as I understand it, our policy and procedure for saying if you're symptomatic, you can't be in the building in any way, shape, or form is not going to be affected by these tests. Is that correct?
That's correct. These are just, again, one more measure. Often, I'll use an example. Often what will happen is a kid comes to school, they're fine, and then they start coughing, or they have a runny nose, or they start running a fever. That's very common in younger children especially. Or a kid has a test in high school, and they don't tell their parents, and they just come to school, and they start hacking up a lung, and then they're sent to the office. So those are the kids that when they're sent to the office, then we are still going to do the mitigation for those kids. We're going to call their parent, we're going to send them home. If the parent allows us to test them on site, then we certainly will do that. If the parent has not consented and doesn't want them to, they still have to come pick their child up. And then we are going to recommend that they call their doctor, and their doctor very likely would recommend testing. So that's up to them. And if they then go through the Carl testing or whatever they want to do, that's fine. We're not going to force testing on anyone, and we will certainly work with the parents, but it does not change anything we're doing in-house currently. It just adds an extra level to perhaps keep somebody from coming in on Tuesday that we might not catch until Wednesday, or something like that. So, and as far as younger children, we've had a number of younger children that have tested positive recently outside, and I've been called about it. But if they come in and they're symptomatic, the parents are coming to pick them up anyway. We're going to have the parent, if they want them tested, we're going to have the parent administering that swab, to help them. We're not going to traumatize children doing it without a parent being there. So we're going to do that. Even at the junior high school level, we're going to make sure that the parents are involved in the process. We're not going to do any of that without parental consent. That's kind of our main thing, is making sure that we have parents on board with every step of the way. We're not going to test any students or any staff that don't give us consent.
Okay. And do we have a I'm sure that everyone probably has a host of questions, as I have. Do we have the communication ready to go? I mean, I guess what I hesitate to have happen is parents think, oh, my child woke up with a sore throat or the sniffles, I'm going to send them to school because I can get them tested at school. Do we have some communication going out to clearly define what happens and where you go for testing, and whether or not that includes sending the child to school, or whether that's just coming through the drive-through? Like, when does that communication come out to the community so that people understand if this, then that?
Well, we've already sent some communication telling parents that this is going to be offered and that this will be available beginning second semester. So we've done that already. What we will do, as we've continued to do, we will reiterate yet again to parents that they need to keep their children home, which is part of our overall health plan that has been since the beginning.
Keep them home when they're symptomatic.
Yeah, keep them home when they're symptomatic. And so far, our parents have done a really good job of that. And what we're doing, we have said only if children are symptomatic. The thing is if we're going to send them home. So we were asking parents not to bring them if they're symptomatic. And we certainly are going to communicate that again as we get closer to time. And just a reminder, this is a screening that you can bring your child through on Monday. If your child is symptomatic, please keep them home. The same rules apply. Right now, we have a lot of kids that are testing positive for strep. There's a lot of stomach bugs out there right now. There are kids are starting to have the flu. So we're seeing a lot of different things right now that are not COVID, which, I mean, it'd be way easier if we had one thing at a time. Unfortunately, that's not how that's working. So our standard policy is still in place. If your kid has a fever, they have to be home 24 hours fever-free before they can come to school. So those things have not changed, and we will continue to communicate that those things haven't changed. So if somebody wants to be tested outside of the Monday test, they have to call our health EOPs and they have to make an appointment. So, and if we have the opportunity and have time to do that, but we're not going to wholesale test kids all week, every week, because we would not get anything else done. We just don't have the capacity or the staff to do that.
And one final question: how much PPE do we have for people doing testing, and what is the budget that we have allocated for that PPE?
Well, I'm making Heather kind of hemorrhage money right now with PPE. So Heather has done a great job. We had some PPE donated. We have as much PPE as people want. I still have thousands of shields. I have thousands of masks. I have more KN95 masks coming. We have gloves. Steve just continues to order gloves. We have all the wipes that we could need. So as we get low on any particular one type of PPE, Heather has been great we work together and we're staying stocked. So any PPE that someone wants is there and they can have it. That's not something that's going to be limited for anybody who's helping with testing. The only people that are administering the tests right now are the 4 health EOPs or myself. So all the other people that we have are part of the organizational structure, part of the communication structure, part of the timing, all those things. The people that are actually handling the tests right now are the 4 health EOPs, and that's it.
Okay, and do we have a standard requirement for them to be suited up in certain PPE as they administer tests?
Yes, they are all wearing gloves, shields, masks, and if they want them gowns, these are little cards that the nasal swabs are sealed inside a card and they're putting them in a tray, so there's minimal contact with any of those things. The testing's happening outside in most cases if the drive-through, and I have gowns. So I am asking, the minimal requirement is that they wear gloves, shield, and KN95 mask when they do all the testing. So that's the minimum. If they want gowns, they want an extra shield, they want another mask, they can have as much as they want. They can double up as much as they want. But the minimum is that they have to do a shield, a mask, and gloves.
Okay. And Heather, would you mind sending to the board how much we've spent so far on PPE and what's budgeted moving forward, please?
Sure, and I just want to add, everything that we've spent so far has been covered by the CARES grant. And when I took those tents out, that's where I got the money to do to give more money to her for the PPE that we just ordered.
And was that $250?
What?
How much did that start out as?
CARES grant was 274.
Yes, 274,000. But I just took out about 10,000 for the tents that Dr. Hall got covered in other places. Mm-hmm. So that 10,000 went back in. So actually I'm amending the grant. That's what I was asking you just for some information on, so that I can amend it and I can use that money still. Like I said, I don't know about next semester, but right now we're completely covered by the grant. But I can see how much that, yeah.
If you could just send that grant and the breakdown of everything we've spent and how we spent it, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
One other point, Megan, just real quickly, one other point is I just want to point out that our staff are not swabbing anyone. That the people are swabbing themselves just like you would at Marketplace Mall or anywhere else that you go. So we simply are taking the swab and putting it in the little card and closing the card and reading the card. So they are swabbing themselves, which is why with small children, you're gonna have parents doing it. So we're not actually doing that to any person.
And I can tell you so far, we've spent about 11,000 on total PPE. If that helps, just for a start, I'll give you the rest of the information, but so.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Nita?
No, thank you to you and all the staff and everybody for making this happen and the finances and everything. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a question that.
I'm sorry?
I said, I have a question that Nita will be happy to hear because it's not one for her to answer.
Go ahead.
So at the beginning of the meeting tonight, it was mentioned that 62 students have changed to remote since November 1st at the junior high. And I was wondering if Lindsay or Nicole could give us an update on the numbers from all 4 schools of the number of people who have switched to remote learning since November 1st or whatever.
Sure, we can send that to you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are we going to be using paid days off when the FERCA leave expires on December 31st for COVID related absences?
first and foremost, let's hope that FFCRA gets extended. For those that aren't aware, it does expire on December 31st, and that given the situation that everybody finds themselves in places of work, we would hope that that our senators and representatives in Washington, D.C. could come together and pass something that would work for those of us out in the workplace who might need FFCRA. But as it stands right now today, that expires on December 31st. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So what we have in place here is kind of a multi-layered structure for leave, with FFCRA being the first leave for our employees to access, and then the next level is 15 days of what we're calling paid administrative absence. And then the third level is people using their own sick leave allocation. So I think what we would do at this point, with what I know right now, would be to have people use the paid administrative absence. And as we've done with all of our cases, we take them on a case-by-case basis, and you know, we would just look at what the situation is and what the need is and that type of thing. But that's what I would say right now, knowing what I know now, and again, just hoping that FFCRA gets extended.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
At the beginning of the meeting, the MSCA asked that we reconsider switching to 4 full days. Is there any interest in the board in doing that?
The problem we've got is they've asked to negotiate that. We're in the middle of negotiations with them. We meet again on Thursday night. And they were also clear in their opening statement, as they've been clear throughout this process, that they think they've got the right to negotiate that decision. So we really can't say much in public right now. We are going to talk about negotiating matters in closed session here shortly.
Ken just said switching to 4 full days. He didn't put that.
We're in the midst of bargaining that.
We're in the midst of bargaining that. Okay, so speaking of which,
Max,
yeah.
sorry, before we move on, we do have a piece of business that we have to take care of. I emailed you on Friday in the hopes that we would add this to the agenda, but it wasn't successful. We did pass a resolution in July that requires that the board vote on any changes that the superintendent makes to the reopening plan. And she just made a change to the quarantine period based on the CUPHD guidelines. So at the risk of angering you, which I'm going to try not to do because I know you don't like this, but the board does need to procedurally vote on whether or not we're going to approve or change or deny the changes. So I would like to move that we approve the changes in the quarantine period enacted by the superintendent to be a part of the Mahomet-Seymour School reopening plan moving forward as directed by the CUPHD.
That's a complete mischaracterization of what's happened. The IDP, the CDC changed that, and then thankfully the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District also embraced that. We're working with them. You know, if I had the knowledge and expertise to change the quarantine time, I guess I would do that, but that's not anything that I've done.
Actually, the health plan piece is, I sent the update with the new quarantine dates, which we are following based on email I received from CUPHDs that doesn't have anything to do with the overall educational plan. The health plan says on the bottom of it that it'll be updated as new information is forthcoming from public health. And so I actually updated the health plan and had sent it to CUPHD last week for approval again before changing it on our website. So that piece it says in the health plan that that piece will be updated as new changes come. So I'm working on that piece. And the quarantine dates, we are currently following public health quarantine dates as we were directed. So the whole overall school reopening plan, they're kind of two separate things. The school reopening plan, as far as how we did the educational piece, and then what we did for the health piece, this is like the school health plan is different. And so I'm updating that based on public health, and that will be reflect that it was updated on whichever day I updated. So I have that ready to go. I'm just waiting for approval from public health on the final.
So I will.
Go ahead, Colleen.
I will second her motion because I didn't hear her say that anyone else changed it. I believe that the resolution the board passed said if Lindsay updates the policy under the direction of IDPH, ISBE, the governor, the CUPHD, that she will inform the board and then the board will vote on it. I just think procedurally we need to take a vote on this so that when she changed the policy due to the CDC and CUPHD, that was what was called for in the resolution that was passed by the board. So I think it's just a requirement of us to keep the resolution that we passed, to vote and say, yes, we agree that we should update it as recommended by the superintendent. It doesn't seem to be very controversial to me, but I guess it is.
Megan, could you please send me your motion just so I have that?
Sure.
Could you send that soon?
I'll try and send it right now.
Thank you.
I think the rest of us don't have that resolution, so I think.
Yeah, where did that email go on Friday? Because this is
But the resolution we passed in July as the board.
I don't doubt that, but I'd much rather be prepared if we're gonna have a vote and we don't have that documentation in front of us.
Well, this is why on Friday, I do believe I copied the board and asked Max to make it an action item. I mean, just so you know, I'm inclined to approve this because it's in line with the CUPHD, but I think procedurally we have to follow the resolutions that we pass, and this is part of the board business. And
so
to not do this.
So the email on Friday said we needed an action item under COVID. It never said what action we needed to take under COVID. And that.
Max, I apologize. I assume that you knew as the president that part of the role of the president is to make sure that the agenda has the things on it. I didn't understand that you didn't know about the resolution.
This change was actually sent out to everybody on Friday, December 4th. So
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anyone object to the change. I mean, I, for one, do not in any way object to the change. I just feel like we need to follow our rules, which say the board has to take a vote on this. So I'm also inclined to vote for it. I can't imagine that those sitting in the room aren't going to vote to support what Lindsay said because it's in line with the CDC. So I don't know that this is controversial or will even be.
I'm confused by the description of this as being that somehow I changed the quarantine time. This was made by an agency that has more jurisdiction over what we're doing and has let us know that this is okay. So that's what we.
I don't think that you were the one that made up the dates. I think that you're the one that put out the plan and recommended it to the board, and the resolution says in it, the superintendent has the authority to change the reopening plan to stay in line with the IDPH and the CUPHD and the CDC. And so the CDC didn't come and type on our website that we're changing Mahomet's plan. That's the prerogative of the superintendent. I don't think you were the idea comer-upper with of the policy. Just I guess I don't understand what the problem is here.
Well, the problem is that it's not on the agenda. What Mrs. Hennessy asked for on Friday was simply an action item related to COVID, no description. So it would have been helpful, I would think, I don't want to speak on behalf of any other board members, but for the board to know what it is that was going to be discussed this evening.
It says we can certainly talk about this more during the COVID update portion of the agenda, Dr. Hall. That's all it says. We can talk about it.
That was my response, I think you're right.
I would hope if you had significant questions or concerns that you would have reached out to Dr. Hall over the months, so we could be aware of what you're talking about.
The health plan has been changed a couple times based on CUPHD recommendations to me directly. I mean, that's not even part of it.
Let's get all our ducks in a row and have it in black and white for us to look at and review, and we'll vote on this at the next board meeting.
There's going to be changes to this health plan that come to us. This is a great example, in between board meetings. And the expert in the medical expert needs to be able to work with CUPHD to update our plan and make those changes. And that's what she did.
Max, what's the action before the board?
We've got a motion before the board. Okay, so we've got a motion before the board to approve this. It seems like a relatively procedural thing to approve. What I don't appreciate is when we think something needs to be on the agenda, there needs to be a description of what we want to vote on. And it needs to be sent in a timely manner. And this came out Friday after the agenda came out. It came out with no.
It did come out Friday. I was surprised to not see it on there because my assumption is that as board president, you understood that part of the role of putting the agenda together that the president holds is to ensure that the board business is done. It was not, I did not expect to not see it. I didn't understand that you didn't understand that the resolution passed requires board.
I know you, I understand that you feel this is my fault. I get that. So we'll go ahead and, if there's no further discussion on the motion, we'll go ahead and vote on it.
What do we vote? I wanted to clarify what we're voting on. Because if we're going to set precedent that this has to be voted on every time there's a change that an outside agency makes, we're going to be strangled and we're going to be tied up in this nonsense, this kind of discussion, and we're not going to be able to manage this effectively. We've been doing this
in point of fact.
I am not done talking. We have managed this effectively for the first semester without the board voting on every last thing, and that was the purpose of that resolution that was passed last summer. So this is an example of where we might be able to find more efficiencies in this meeting without nitpicking every little thing and giving the experts in the room the authority to make decisions based on their expertise instead of discussing everything. This is ridiculous.
I think we're about to vote to support the decision you made.
Well, that may be true.
It's been 39 minutes to get here.
What Dr. Hall just said is also very true. So we'll go back and we'll look at this whole thing, and maybe we need to amend the whole document so we don't have to go through these little somersaults and hurdles.
The motion refers to the resolution we don't have in front of us.
Yeah, see, that's.
So no, I'm not supporting anything that we're not looking at.
This is a resolution that this board already passed. In point of fact, I did not vote.
Yeah.
I am still speaking now too, if I may.
I thought I was too.
May I speak now?
Sure.
In point of fact, this resolution was passed in July. I did not vote for this resolution. I did not, at the time I said I did not think it was a good idea to have this level of micromanagement. But the bottom line is once the board votes to enact something as a board member, it is our role to fulfill that. I did not understand that apparently people voted for a resolution that they did not understand. I tried in an attempt to make sure that we got the board business done and fulfilled the obligation of the board to get this added as an action item. The language in the resolution that was passed is pretty clear that I can read it to you if you'd like. The superintendent is hereby authorized.
You're upset because you sent me a vague email and I said no to vagueness.
I'm not gonna vote
Max,
on it.
if you don't want to do the board business, that's fine. I'm going to withdraw my motion, I suppose.
Unmuted.
Good.
So the motion's withdrawn?
That's what she said.
Max, can I once again suggest that the way this can be avoided? I don't know who that is, but can you mute, please? The way this can be avoided is for the board to receive the board packet with enough time to look at it before it goes out to the public. We received this month's board packet 5 minutes before the other board packet was released to the public. There was no time for us to review and say, oh, wait, it looks like Max missed an action item that we need to have. If you give us some more time to look at the board packet, we wouldn't have all of this disorganization.
That's good.
That's a great thought.
Great thought. All right, since the motion's been withdrawn, at this time, a closed session is necessary for number one, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, dismissal of a specific employee, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational, educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. We're also going into closed session for number two, a collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. We're also adding number five, the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a parcel should be acquired. Is there a motion to go into closed session for those three reasons?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Keith,
Yes?
Larson,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes?
Hendricks,
I'm muting him, sorry.
okay, Schultz,
Yes.
Unmuted. Yes.
Giles,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Jeremy, you're on mute.
McComb.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna log off this link, and in about 5 minutes, we'll come back on the other link for the closed session. Members of the public, thanks for hanging with us tonight. We do not anticipate any business at the end of closed session.